Good evening, everyone. Can I offer a very warm word of welcome to you all gathered here with us in St John's Church here on the Falls Road in West Belfast. And a warm word of welcome to those of you who will be watching live online or those of you who may watch it later on. Delighted to have so many of you gathered with us here in the church this evening, and delighted that we are hosting the final event of the Four Corners Festival. It would be remiss of me not to say a special word of welcome to our friends from St Matthew's Parish on the Shankill Road. We have been working very closely with St Matthew's Parish, and they have travelled over across the city tonight to be with us here. So thank you so much for coming to be with us.
Hello everyone, my name is Miley Brennan and I am on the Four Corners Festival Committee. So I'm just here to welcome you all. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight at St. John's. We have a wonderful program and I am very excited for you to be rounding out the festival with us. So a warm welcome to all of you and an especially warm welcome to Councillor John Kyle, a High Sheriff of Belfast. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. So come around with us. So I have just a few pieces of housekeeping before we move into the event tonight. Oh, thank you. This is our sound man, George. Everyone say thank you, George. Lean in. Okay, thank you. So just a few pieces of housekeeping. How many of you have been to any other events this week? Great, good. Thank you so much for coming. Please fill out the questionnaires because we have so much data that we collect from those allows us to plan the event better and also allows us to go back to our funders and say, people are really enjoying this festival, or here are some areas where we need to improve. So if you go to the Four Corners Festival website, the questionnaires will be there. They only take a couple of minutes to fill out, so if you could please give us some feedback, that will help us improve going forward. Also, we are collecting donations to enable our events to continue to be free. We have some very generous funders that we're so grateful for. If you are able, we have donation buckets that you can drop donations in, or you can do that online as well. In the unlikely event of a fire, there are stewards in these wonderful hoodies that will take you out the emergency exit in the back. So I am going to go ahead and hand over to our lovely Concentio Choir. Everyone give them a round of applause.
Shine, Alleluia. Shine, Alleluia. Shine, Alleluia. Shine, Alleluia. Shine, Alleluia. Journey along the river of light, we long to find our home. As we seek the truth, we will work for your kingdom. Oh, come be the source of our life. Shine times of trial we know you are near, always standing by our side. Your peace unfolds as your face smiles upon us. Oh, come, lead your people home. Shine, Alleluia. Shine, Alleluia. Shine, shine, Alleluia. Shine, Alleluia. Creation calls us to sing your praise through the night and through the day. You have promised us your truth, your love. For we are your work of art. Shine, Alleluia. Shine, Alleluia. Shine, Alleluia.
Thank you to Consentio and to Johnny for that wonderful beginning to our event this evening, which is bringing this year's festival to an end. It's lovely to have you here with us in St. John's. My name is David Campton. I'm one of the planning teams and directors of the festival, and it's a real honour to be here just leading things this evening. But you're not going to hear too much from me. What we want to hear tonight is other voices who have participated in this year's festival. First of all, some who participated before things went public. We really officially started last Sunday through to this, but actually things had already begun, because 2 days before that, on the Friday, some secondary school pupils from all across the city met in the new Ulster University for a very special event. And Jim and a couple of the pupils there are going to give us a flavour of that event now.
Thank you, David. Good evening, everybody. Allow me to introduce you to Elliot and Tyler. Will we give them a round of applause? Well deserved. So Elliot and Tyler were two of our participants at our event, and they're accompanied tonight by their mummies. And I have it on good authority, Elliot, that this is your mummy's birthday. Is that the case? Yeah. Denise, will we sing happy birthday? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Denise. Harmonies choir. Happy birthday to you. I'm either in really good books or really bad books. I'm not too sure which is which. Yes, so as David was saying, on Friday the 27th, sixth formers from right across Belfast, from many, many schools, gathered in the University of Ulster in the new campus to explore their dreams for themselves, for our city, and for the world. And they did it in a very particular way, but rather than me tell you that, Elliot, will you tell us a word or two about what happened on the day? Come on into the microphone.
So on the day, we arrived at Ulster University, and we were split up into smaller groups just to basically walk around the campus area and take photos of just stuff we could talk about and what describes our own interpretations of the city. And yeah, that's the gist.
Thank you. Tyler, before you went out on to take the photographs, that we're going to look at some of them now, and they might be scrolling about, are they? Thank God. But before that, there was an input in the university and you learned some things. Tell us a wee bit about that, will you?
So we had this man who came in called Mal, and he sort of taught us ways on how to edit our photos and use different wee props around Cathedral Quarter and how to take good photos. So one of the ones he used, and it's pretty basic, but it was a puddle. So you could have used a puddle to improvise, so it how made a tree sort of very nice. So yeah, it was good wee tips that we could have used instead of using big things.
Fantastic, thank you, Tyler. So the young people got an input from a man called Mal, who happens to be Mal McCann, who is an award-winning photojournalist, photographer, and who happens to be here. So if you all turn round, he's the man with the impossibly large beard. Give us a wave there, Mal. Give him a round of applause. Thank you so much, Mal. Fantastic. And so Mal skilled our young people up, and we sent them out in gangs to look at our city and to see our city through their eyes and to try to capture some of that. And you'll have seen some of the pictures there, but we want to bring up specifically one picture that Tyler took, one picture that Elliot took, and the question when your picture comes up, the question is, what caught your eye about the picture, and what do you think it says to us about our city? So whose is up first? Tyler, come ahead.
So my group, we all discussed about what we thought was good about this photo. So our vision for this photo for Belfast was wherever you walk or wherever you look in Belfast, there's always a happy sense. Everyone can be very whole and together and to bring peace together. So you can see these two guys are just walking around. It looks sort of like a very dodgy street in Belfast, but they look like they're having the time of their life. So it's wherever you go, you can still be happy.
Very good. Thank you, Tyler. Elliot, come and see. Tell us when we hit your picture. That's your picture. Tell us about that now.
So this photo was took using the reflection of my other phone. So just set it down on this kind of bench area, and I talked to these two ladies before I obviously took the photo, and I went up to them and said, "Would it be grand if I could take your photo?" And they said, "Yeah, that's perfectly fine." But that's the first time they met. That was the first time they met today, and I could almost bet that they weren't really taking in any ethical backgrounds or what religions or anything. They were just talking like two strangers, and I obviously didn't know they were two strangers. They looked very comfortable, so it was well timed because that's actually a video. It's a still took from a 4K video, and I just took one screenshot from it, and the pigeon just came down, and it was timed well. So yeah.
Fantastic. Excellent. Isn't that fascinating? A city of joy and friendship and peace and coming together and not worrying about all of our different baggage and backgrounds we bring, and yet coming together anyhow. So just finally, guys, our festival this year, the theme is dreams, visions for our city. If you had a dream for yourself, for our city, for the world, what would it be? Elliot, you go first.
Not entirely to forget about the past, but I think just to move on and just accept everyone just as they are, and just to really get into the nitty-gritty of stuff, just come together.
Thank you, Elliot. Beautiful, man. Tyler?
My vision for Belfast to move forward would be to help people that are in need, for like people's well-being, and just for everyone to come together and bring peace and just become all one and connected with each other.
Thank you. Our University of Ulster event has become a staple event in the festival, so we thank our partners at the University of Ulster. We thank Mal McCann for his generosity and his wisdom and the skilling up of our young people. But most of all, we thank all of those young people, and we get to do that through thanking Elliot and Tyler tonight. So a final round of applause. Well done.
Thank you, Elliot and Tyler and Jim, who's not quite so young. Over recent years, the festival hasn't really seemed like the festival until some of our regular visitors come. We started out with a vision of attracting people from different corners of this city into strange corners. And now we're getting people who come back to this festival from different corners of the world. And it's really lovely to see. And what we've done this year is we've asked two of them. Let's be official, the Reverend Neil Cregan and Dr. Victoria Graff, who have been regular visitors to the festival. And I've just asked them to just reflect for a few minutes and let us know why. Why do you make this week a regular part of your schedule? Coming, and you can tell us how many miles you've come. Neil's come by a very circuitous route this time, but why do you do this? And what have been your highlights of the festival this year? So, Neil and Victoria, over to you.
If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and preempt Neil here, but I bring you greetings from Los Angeles, California. Anybody want to come home with me? So I'm very proud to wear the green sweatshirt, and I want to thank Jim for making it possible for me to have it. But this isn't my first visit. I first came to Belfast 10 years ago and took what every tourist takes, is that black cab tour. And as a Christian, couldn't believe my eyes that Christians were divided by walls. So I went home and more or less made a commitment that I would come back again and again. And I know some of you here remember Wade and Ward and Marta Stothers, who lived on the Crumlin Road. I see some nods going on. And I stayed with them on the Crumlin Road. And so that was the first time I heard about the Four Corners Festival. And then Father Martin reached out to me to see if I could bring Father Greg Boyle over here from Homeboy Industries, which, if some of you remember, he brought 3 of his former gang members to Belfast. And not only did it make an impression on Belfast, but I think it also made quite an impression on these former gang members who would love to come back to Belfast. So please invite them to come back. They would love to be here on a regular basis, and I think we could all learn from them. I also want to mention that Father Martin has also been in virtual at my university with the film Rough. That was also part of the festival several years ago, and that was shown at our School of Film and Television at Loyola Marymount University and made quite an impact so that our students could really understand a little bit more of some of the challenges that you have here. But in terms of what's really made an impact for me this time, I have to say, as an American, Dana Masters' discussion as a woman from the South really struck home with me, because I also grew up in a racially segregated city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where there was a race massacre in the 1920s. And sadly, I would say we haven't come very far in terms of our race relations. So that's one of the reasons I keep coming back here, because I think we could use a Four Corners Festival certainly in Los Angeles, so that we can bring communities together, because we are a very divided city and a very divided nation. So I'm hoping that you can lead us the way in terms of peace and reconciliation. We have a lot to learn from you, and I will continue to come back. I will keep you in my prayers. That's my dream, that you will continue to work towards peace and reconciliation. And next year I'll try and bring some of my friends in person. I know some are watching online as well, but hopefully we'll have more visitors coming from California. Thank you.
All right, yeah, go ahead. You know, when David asked me to answer those two questions, why I come to the festival and what my highlights are for the year, I thought that's a simple question to answer. Right now I live in Minneapolis, but I was born and raised in South Belfast in BT9, Upper Malone area. And there's parts of this city as a BT9er we would never have ventured into in the 70s and 80s. But now we do so openly. Well, I suppose one reason I come is it's an excuse to come home for a bit. I fly home for a week or two, I see my family, it's an opportunity to hear some great speakers, attend some great events, catch up with people who have become friends. But that's the easy answer. The real answer is something far more significant than that. I'm drawn to be here. I feel a need to be here. The people, the stories, the history, the hopes and dreams for a better future. The church coming together and setting aside denominational differences and being one, just as Jesus commanded us to be. People who come together and are vulnerable. They take a risk. It's not just about listening to one another, but it's about hearing each other. Really hearing each other and appreciating the lived experiences of the other. I'm here because generations ago, a family member, the father of the Reverend John Knox Leslie of Molesworth Presbyterian in Cookstown, was a member of the United Irishmen, a good Presbyterian, sentenced to be hanged. But another side of our family, the Reverend William Holmes of Ballyeaston, formed the Ballyeaston Yeomanry to fight the rebels. Both sides, one family. I'm here because my grandfather was a great supporter of Home Rule. But my great-great-grandfather, the Reverend William McCain, stood side by side on a platform with Edward Carson on Ulster Day, 28th of September 1912, and preached the sermon that day. And in that sermon he said, "The Irish question is at bottom a war against Protestantism. It is an attempt to establish a Roman Catholic ascendancy in Ireland." He was wrong, but the fear was real, even if it was misplaced. I'm here because in August 1969, my dad sent lorries to Bombay Street to help evacuate those who had been burned out by the Loyalists. He was a Protestant, a Presbyterian, working for Loudon and Partners. You see, I come to Four Corners because our stories matter. None of us fit into neat little boxes. We're beautiful, wonderful, complex human beings created together in the image of God. And we need to hear each other. But more than hearing each other, we need each other. So last Sunday at the Skenos Centre, Julianne Moran used the term siblinghood. And it was such a wonderful way to describe how we relate to one another. But I took that thought with me as I went to Art Cetera this week and stepped into the homeless exhibition. And I was forced there to stand in front of some very provocative and thought-provoking images and ask, are they my siblings? That's what Four Corners does for us. Now, I thought Wednesday night was going to be the highlight of my week when Karen and Sarah Louise and Gordon and Emily shared just some powerful, powerful stories. But then Friday night came along, and Dana Masters was interviewed by Steve. And it was a powerful moment, and she ended that evening by singing "Lift Every Voice and Sing." And I want you to listen again to some of the words of that song she sang. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by Thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. I am so appreciative of all that Father Martin and Reverend Stocky have done and the team that have put together to make this festival happen. But my prayer is not just for those of you who are here in the building tonight. My prayer continues to be for those who are still reluctant and fearful to show up at an event like this. God bless Four Corners. Thank you.
Thank you to Neil and Victoria and to all of our visitors, particularly those who are online even this evening. Neil did mention the homeless photography exhibition. It was due to end today, but it will now roll on for the next few days in Artcetera. So if you haven't had the chance to go and see that, there are still a few more days that you can see it down in Rosemary Street. And it is massively challenging. It's certainly one of my highlights this year. But as we've looked right at the beginning of this year's festival, we've had a few tastes of what the festival has offered. We're now thinking about the festival as a whole and looking forward, and indeed looking forward as regards this planet of ours. And Steve Gregg is going to come and just share some news that some are already aware of from an event earlier in the week, but we wanted to reiterate it here tonight in preparation for next year.
Thank you, David. The reality of modern life is that almost all human activity causes the release of carbon into our atmosphere. Whether it's the use of electricity, which is generated from fossil fuels, whether it's the heating of our homes, or whether it's our cars and driving here tonight. This carbon adds to greenhouse gases, increases global temperatures, which leads to climate change. Pope Francis stated that we are stewards, not masters of this earth. He went on to say, each of us has a personal responsibility to care for the precious gift of God's creation. We all can do more to be energy efficient, to reduce waste, to adjust our driving, to use less water, or even eat less meat. We must move away from the dependence on fossil fuels. But this takes time, and that is why we need to offset the carbon that we create by planting trees, which are good absorbers of carbon. I'm very pleased tonight to announce that the Four Corners Festival directors have made the decision to have a carbon-neutral festival this year and ongoing. This means we will calculate the carbon produced as a result of the festival, and along with the Belfast City Council and their 1 Million Trees project, we will offset the carbon. This is an environmental journey that we're on, and I would challenge you all here tonight to look at your own situation and also consider the option of carbon offsetting. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Tonight, we are also very, very pleased to have as our keynote speaker as we bring things to a close tonight, Reverend Dr. Inderjit Bhogal. I won't go into the litany of all that Inderjit has done in his career and the many honours that he has received for the work that he's been involved with. it's an honor to us to have you with us here tonight, Inderjit, and we look forward to what you have to say. But as we prepare to hear from him, he's asked for a number of readings to be shared from Scripture, and I'm going to invite two of our members to come and read our Old Testament and New Testament reading before Consentio come and sing for us again.
This is from Deuteronomy chapter 10, starting at verse 12. And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you, but to fear the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving you today for your own good. To the Lord your God belong the heavens, even the highest heavens, the earth and everything in it. Yet the Lord set his affection on your ancestors and loved them, and he chose you, their descendants, above all the nations, as it is today. Circumcise your hearts, therefore, and do not be stiff-necked any longer. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes. He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in Egypt. Fear the Lord your God and serve him. Hold fast to him and take your oaths in his name. He is the one you praise. He is your God who performed for you those great and awesome wonders you saw with your own eyes. Your ancestors who went down into Egypt were 70 in all. And now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars in the sky. Amen.
The second reading is from the Apocalypse, or the book of Revelation. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." I did not see a temple in the city, because the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of the Lord gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. The nations will walk by its light, and the kings of the earth will bring their splendor into it. On no day will its gates ever be shut, for there will be no night there.
This is a reading from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25. I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.
Thank you to George and Gladys and Jared for our readings, and again to Consentio. Singing a slightly different version of what is, generally known as the Methodist national anthem. Wonderful, really stunning. And at this point, I introduce a former Methodist president, Inderjit Bhogal, who is going to come and speak to us now.
Thank you, David, and thank you for the welcome. I greet you all in the name of Christ and wish upon you the peace and blessings of God. Sat Sri Akal Ji, Assalamu Alaikum, Namaste, Jambusana. Well, that's hello in the languages I know well. And I greet you also with Corrymeela Culture. I applaud all who learn languages other than their mother tongue. It is a great privilege to be invited to speak in the Four Corners Festival. It is also a great inconvenience. I said yes in an unguarded moment, because I was invited by friends. And then they told me that the speaker last year was the Archbishop of Canterbury. Well, the blighters. No pressure then. But I can't keep away from Ireland, and I'll take any opportunity to be here. I love the country. I love the people. Yes, I love the stories. And some of my best friends live here, and they are in this room tonight. And there is a great deal that is in common between Indian and Irish people. Same colors in the flag, same approach to timekeeping. There's Indian timekeeping and there's Irish timekeeping, same thing. And of course, the same good sense of humor. It really is a joy to be in the beautiful city of Belfast. My wife Kathy and I lived here in North Belfast for 3 years. I linked up with numerous courageous community organizations and activists to support cross-community building, welcoming refugees, and supporting the Human Rights Bill. I worked with the Northern Ireland Interfaith Forum, well represented here, and great to see you. With interfaith enthusiasts, I helped to organize an interfaith pilgrimage of prayer for peace, walking from the Indian Community Center in the Old Methodist Church, Carlisle Memorial, to St. Patrick's Church, to St. Anne's Cathedral, and then finishing outside the City Hall. I am deeply honored that Belfast, the city I love so much, is now a recognized city of sanctuary. That does not mean that a dream has become a reality. It does not mean that all is fine and dandy here and you've achieved your nirvana and that there is a haven here. But what it does mean is that many organizations and individuals support a network committed to the vision of working together to build cultures of welcome and hospitality, where all are welcome, all are equally valued and belong together and have safety and sanctuary, inclusion, and find fulfillment. There are schools of sanctuary and move towards libraries of sanctuary. There is talk of universities of sanctuary, colleges of sanctuary, cathedrals of sanctuary, churches of sanctuary. Well, thank you and well done, Belfast, city of sanctuary and places of sanctuary in Ireland, for all your incredible and good work. I am full of admiration and deeply humbled that a modest vision I had is honored here. And the chair of Belfast City of Sanctuary, Mirshad, is here. Just stand up for a minute, and I think we should applaud you. And take our good wishes to all those who work with you. So raise a hand if you are able to, all of you, and give yourselves a pat on the back. Well done. That's from me. And just do that again and give your neighbor a high five. And if you were to keep your hands raised and clasped like that, then that's what you get. That's the City of Sanctuary logo. The logo is a recognition that sanctuary is about finding warmth, community, sanctuary in each other. It's more than having a roof over your head. As the Celtic proverb says, it is in the shelter of each other that the people shall live. So whatever your organization, become a place of sanctuary and help to grow the movement and network and the culture termed City of Sanctuary. I work in the background of City of Sanctuary now. Church of Sanctuary is my particular passion and contribution to City of Sanctuary now. And I work with churches together in Britain and Ireland in developing churches of sanctuary. I've written about this in a little book. It's called Hospitality and Sanctuary for All. There's a copy of it at the back. It's not for sale. You can have a copy. If you'd like to leave a donation for work with refugees, then I would be happy to receive that. Well, let's have the next screen then. And on there you have a rope, this one. I now use it as my stole. There's a cross, it's here, and there's a sock. I picked up these items from an abandoned refugee boat which had caught fire and had capsized in the Mediterranean on the 3rd of October 2013. You might remember that. At least 368 people of the 500 on the boat drowned. I visited Lampedusa, and the small island has an area in the harbor which they call the boat cemetery, and it contains dozens of former refugee boats which are abandoned there. I boarded a boat, which I was told was that first boat that capsized, and I took these items from it. The wood I broke off shows marks of a fire, and from it I have made a cross, which I now take around with me. The rope I now use as my stole as a minister. But whose sock is this? It bears the word sport. Maybe it belonged to a young person with high aspirations and dreams of the owner of that sock. If that rope and sock and wood could speak, what stories would they tell of the hopes and dreams of those who were looking for safety on that boat? The next slide, please. I have at home this image. What do you see on that? This drawing is by an artist working in Lampedusa. His name is Francesco Piobicci. Francesco works with a project called Mediterranean Hope, offering support to refugees rescued on Lampedusa. He draws what he sees to provoke discussion. We could have a good discussion about this image now. It shows a mother and a child in water. This nameless mother drowned, and she gave birth to her baby as she drowned. Those who lifted the mother from the sea discovered the child also, still attached to her mother by the umbilical cord. These tragedies continue to happen today. They are buried in Lampedusa. To me, this mother and child are like the Holy Family at the center of the Christian faith that adorns many a Christmas card at the festival. The Holy Family, shortly after Jesus was born, they had to flee from danger and take refuge in Egypt. What kind of reception would Mary and Joseph and Jesus have if they arrived as refugees in Britain or Ireland, crossing the channel on a dinghy as opposed to riding on a donkey? Why do we make it so difficult for people to migrate? Why all the walls and borders and hostilities over migration? Why is there so much cruelty in matters of immigration? Why not work to make travel easier, to promote connection and community and communication and communion, and promote compassion? I wrestle with these questions and bring them to you tonight. Once upon a time, a Titanic boat was built not far from here to enable huge numbers of people to migrate from here, to go somewhere else for safety and stability. Four Corners work towards a sanctuary commitment and recognition give your support to City of Sanctuary. It is an honor to be part of the Four Corners Festival. I have been a supporter from the beginning. I do remember sitting at the back in Fitzroy at one of the earliest meetings. Thank you for the kind invitation. I am glad to be here and to share a few thoughts on your theme of dreams becoming a reality. And it's a great pleasure to be in St. John's. I have been here before through my association with Cornerstone Community. Back in the early 70s, I was aware of the work of Father Des Wilson here, a prophetic figure ahead of his time, who spoke up for the poorest and for those who felt most powerless to effect change, a critic of church and state, committed to change and ecumenism and inclusion, a controversial figure. I salute him and Sisters of Springfield House and for their support of the former ecumenical Cornerstone Community on Springfield Road, which continues today with YWAM. And before I say any more, can I just say thank you to Alison and Roger Curry, who are sitting here, and also to Harold and Claudia Good for their kind hospitality to me during my stay in Belfast. I first came to Northern Ireland in 1977 at the invitation of Harold to Corrymeela Community to drive the minibus there and to help out a little bit to build inclusive worship and prayer. And later on, I came back and had a go at being the leader and chief executive of Corrymeela, while Harold has been a mentor and friend and companion to me from the moment we met. I'm not surprised he's sitting in the congregation today. Thank you, Harold. And of course, I'm a great admirer of Ray Davey, founder of Corrymeela Community, and his vision and hope of reconciliation and healing in Northern Ireland and beyond. Ray was fully aware of the reality here and constantly reminded us that sooner or later the penny has to drop, that if we Christians don't speak about reconciliation, we have nothing to say. One day, as we walked together at the Corrymeela Centre in Ballycastle, I asked Ray about the origins of Corrymeela, and Ray said to me, if you have an idea, you have to incarnate it. Well, Corrymeela was an idea that grew in Ray as he worked with prisoners in Dresden, and he saw the value of community in places of conflict and how communion built around a shared idea and activity grows the idea. And I've taken that wisdom from Ray. The word has to become flesh amongst people. That's divine methodology. Who are we to think we can work any other way? Ray was born on the 10th of January, 1915. So he is 108 this year. His legacy lives on because he embedded his work in community. 94 years ago, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was born on the 15th of January, 1929. It is 60 years since his great dream speech. Well, what are your hopes and dreams as we go into the future? I was asked to come and talk about mine here. Well, a very good friend of mine from Ballycastle in Northern Ireland, Lucia Quinnie, outlined her vision to me and dream in a speech she gave at a fundraising gala she organized locally. Fun-loving Lucia had a wonderful way of bringing people together around a shared vision. A gold medal winning participant in the UK and World Transplant Games, Lucia's vision centered on organ donation awareness and conversations and bringing this onto the Northern Ireland's national school curriculum, and progress is already being made on that. Lucia had 4 liver transplants. She died just before her 21st birthday. Her spirit, her vision, and her inspiration live on. In her own simple and profound words, she summed up what she wanted to say by saying, "Live loudly, donate proudly." Lucia's friend, Dara McAnulty, holds up a vision of connecting with the erupting evensong in nature. Respect for the environment around us. I asked an 8-year-old boy from Sudan about his dream. His immediate response was, "A world without war." 2 teenagers from Syria taking sanctuary in Britain said they wanted to live in a world where there is no killing. Clementine Wamaria, who was a 6-year-old child and who lived through the Rwanda genocide in 1994, say that one lesson she wants to teach the world is that living in closed bubbles is dangerous, and that improvement will only come when killers lay down their weapons. We have to listen to the wisdom of children and young people and take it seriously. My own son and daughter now are also my teachers. My son said to me that the dangers of people living in their own internet bubbles, where so-called influencers distribute their opinions in order to manipulate the opinion of their audience with algorithms designed to amplify those opinions back to the users, creating what are called filter bubbles that shade the users from a balanced opinion, we have to watch out for. Because when opinions clash online, it becomes clear that we have not learned how to interact with courtesy and respect. We have not learned to think before we type. We have not learned not to make judgments from single sentences. Of course, there are benefits, he says, of internet-like access to information and services. The early hope was that the internet would bring communities closer, but the opposite seems to be happening. All the work being done to bring communities together may be being undone tenfold by unregulated, computer-controlled algorithms with a bias towards corporate profit above all. Inderjit says, this form of communication is more like shouting at each other than holding a respectful conversation. He says to me that the awareness of these pitfalls should be understood and taught at all levels, and the need for dialogue between us humans online must follow the basic principles of respectful face-to-face conversation. Inderjit has an online article elaborating the points which I've summarized very briefly here. These hopes and dreams of Lucia and Dara and Clementine and Inderjit, other young people, including those we've heard here today, they embrace the world. What I like about their dreams is that they did not appear while they were asleep. Their dreams emerged and grew from being awake to reality. And best dreams always do. Indeed, they call us to wake up to reality. John Sobrino, the Jesuit theologian from El Salvador, insists that reality is the beginning of spirituality and holiness. And for me, reality is where best dreams are rooted. The best dreams don't become a reality. They begin in reality. The Bible is a book of dreams and visions and hopes. We saw some of them on the screen. The Bible begins with visions of a world created by God and relates dreams that ultimately encompass a new heaven and a new earth, as we see in Revelations. The very first message of the Bible is that all creation, everything, anything that can be declared very good, emerges from the reality that's called chaos. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless and void. A darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. That's where everything came from the reality. And I love that vision in Revelations 21, where God's home, God's sanctuary is amongst people. There are no temples there, no walls, no gates. People of all nations are included. Everyone's contribution is honored, and God wipes the tears of the people. And there is a river of water there, a river of the water of life, with a tree of life, and the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. Biblical dreams and hope center on returning, reunion, reconciliation, and finding communion, healing, rest and refreshment, and healing in relationships. For me, this is summed up in what happens here at this table. Jesus' style, symbolized in Jesus' style of keeping an open table, the sacrament of Holy Communion, the Mass, a foretaste of the ultimate realization in heaven, but also a revelation of the world as it is meant to be and as God desires it to be now. One bread of equal sharing, a sanctuary for all. The important thing in our dreams and vision is that we pay attention, therefore, to their context and reality. This year, we marked 30 years since the murder of Stephen Lawrence on the 22nd of April, 1993, in a street in London. It is a murder that speaks of the reality of racist behavior, which remains rooted in institutions and structures, theologies and philosophies, as well as in individuals. And we add to Stephen's name names like George Floyd, and then Tyre Nichols, beaten to death by police as he called out for his mum, shouting, "I just want to go home." 36 years ago, in Wolverhampton, David Quinney and I walked at the front of a march against police racism and violence 36 years ago, after a young black man died of asphyxiation in a street where we lived, while he was being arrested by police in the city centre in Wolverhampton. Our George Floyd all those years ago. What have we learned? We have Holocaust Memorial Day on the 27th of January. Anti-Semitism is far from over, and Palestinians long for a home. Islamophobia is a reality. 25 years since the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland, again rooted in the reality of sectarianism, which is grounded in institutions and structures, theologies and philosophies, as well as in individuals. And part of the reality, sadly, is that there is no functioning executive or assembly at Stormont. But we pay tribute to all those who foster peace, fragile as it is. the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King imagined a new world. He spoke out of a reality of segregation of black and white in the USA, deeply rooted in the 400 disgrace of the transatlantic slave trade. His dream of black and white coming together contrasted with the nightmare of his contemporary Malcolm X, who said, "Never the twain shall meet." But Martin Luther King's dream grew out of a troubled reality, but he could outline his dream in just a few words. We all have a dream, and my dream has grown from my history of immigration, interfaith relations, and experiences of racism. My own parents lived a history of migration, moving homes and living in 4 different countries by the time they were 30, taking very little with them other than their increasing brood, and all because of British politics around the world. Their way forward, their survival strategy was migration. They eventually made their home in Dudley in the West Midlands, near Smethwick and Wolverhampton. And my real claim to fame actually is that when I was in Dudley, I went to school with Lenny Henry. Comic, actor, academic, knight of the realm. We both left school without any qualifications whatsoever because our teachers took one look at us and thought, well, we can't expect much from them. But we've both made our way in life, and we've made our contribution to life and society here. As a Methodist minister and a pastor, I have worked with others, especially in churches, to critique and challenge immigration policy and procedure where it has been unjust and discriminatory. I have supported many anti-deportation campaigns. In October 2005, I called a meeting to launch what is now called the City of Sanctuary Initiative. And if you could have our next slide there. In 2007, Sheffield was declared UK's first City of Sanctuary. Now, there are over 120 towns and cities and villages and areas, universities, theatres, gardens, maternity wards, hospitals in Britain and Ireland working with the City of Sanctuary vision to build cultures of welcome and hospitality, cities we can be proud to live in. City of Sanctuary is ecumenical in the widest sense, involving all denominations, all faiths, people who profess no particular religious faith, people of different political shades, and it is supported by churches together in Britain and Ireland. The Bible contains the commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. Do you know how many times that's mentioned in what's called the Old Testament, the Hebrew Scriptures? Just once. But do you know how many times it says, you shall also love the stranger as yourself? Well, according to Hebrew sages, around 40 times we are told to love the stranger. Everybody knows about love the neighbor. Hardly ever do we hear the challenge to love also the stranger. The concept of sanctuary grew out of that, to love the stranger, thousands of years ago, rooted in Scripture. And the Hebrews enshrined sanctuary into legal codes of their own new society when 6 cities of refuge were established according to the legislation set out in the book of Numbers and Joshua, Deuteronomy. Cities of refuge were about giving protection to vulnerable people whose lives were in danger. And City of Sanctuary is a contemporary expression of that ancient concept. And it's not new in Britain and Ireland. Sanctuary was available 1,000 years ago in churches in Britain and Ireland. They offered protection to debtors and criminals. And in Ireland, sanctuary is an ancient Celtic concept. In Nendrum, on the shores of Strangford Lough, are the ruins of a 5th century monastery established by St. Caelan. And within the walls of the monastery, if you go there now to see it, you'll see clearly there is a space where sanctuary was provided for people who were fleeing danger and whose lives were troubled. In Glendalough Monastery, County Wicklow, you can still see and touch what is called the sanctuary cross there on a rock. The Celtic term Ancherman refers to an area around churches and monasteries that were to be free of political, religious, and feudal conflict, and people would have sanctuary and they could be safe. And Ireland still has villages which are called Ancherman. The concept of sanctuary in the Western world began to emerge in the 20th century, first in El Salvador, as a form of protection of people from the death squads. From there it was taken to the USA, and then it came to Germany, Switzerland, Denmark, Sweden, and then to the UK. And in 2005, I began to wonder, could Sheffield, where I was living and I live now, become a recognized city of sanctuary for people seeking asylum and refuge? So how can we help people to be at home, to be welcome in all corners, wherever they are, and have hospitality and be safe and have sanctuary right where they are? The next screen, please. Today, there are 100 million people worldwide who are uprooted in their own countries or seeking refuge and sanctuary elsewhere. According to a report of the United Nations High Commissioner on Refugees, this is an unprecedented situation in our world today, a shameful fact of the world in which we find ourselves. And 90% of the world's refugees are from or in countries which are close to war or conflict. And 90% of those refugees are looked after by neighboring countries. Some of the poorest countries take the largest proportion of refugees. Wars create refugees, and therefore the best solution to the current refugee crisis is the cessation of war, to stop war and killing. Sadly, the next 20 or 30 years will see huge movements of people as a result of environmental degradation, climate change, famine, war, and persecution. The numbers of people seeking sanctuary in Britain is actually very small. Images of people arriving on the shores of Kent don't give the full picture. 20 years ago, there were 45,000 people 100,000 people who were applying for asylum in the UK. Last year, there were 45,000 people. Numbers have declined, but that's not the impression you get from the media, and there's certainly no invasion taking place with people coming here. And almost 300 people have died crossing the English Channel in the last 20 years. Crossing borders has long been part of being human. It is crazy that nations now expend millions on border control. The UK Home Office paid France £54 million last year to police the Channel, with more pledged. And up to the end of October last year, we'd spent, our government, £130 million on the so-called Rwanda policy. It's a monstrous response to a human catastrophe, a hostile tone portrayed to deter and stop refugees. While there is a growing challenge to this hostile environment, lost not least from those who see freedom of movement across borders as the way ahead. This includes well-researched, well-reasoned calls for open borders on the basis that migration is an essential part of being human and will increase in the future. We've become a planet on the move. We need policies which are not focused on preventing migration, but providing strategies for dealing with the inevitable and integrating new arrivals more successfully and more humanely. My friends, the biblical dream of justice and peace holds a promise that all people shall have sanctuary and that they will have a home and sit under their own vines and their own fig trees, and no one shall make them afraid. So my dream, what's my dream? I'll move towards the close and share this with you. I have a dream. I have a dream which is deeply rooted in my life and travels and study and work. I have a dream of a world that insists on building openness in our communities, and a world in which all are welcome and valued and belong equally together and have sanctuary and are safe. I have a dream of a world where there are no corners, no straight lines, no centers, no margins, no hierarchies, no superiors, no inferiors. I have a dream of a world where the only walls that exist are the ones which are there to give shelter and share hospitality. I have a dream of a world where all people are honored as made in the image of God and where all life is held as sacred. I have a dream of a world where there is deep mutual respect and trust between women and men, young and old, black and white, and all the shades in between Baha'i and Buddhist and Christian, Hindu, humanist, Jain, Jew, Muslim, pagan, Sikh and Zoroastrian, and people of all sexual orientations, different identities, different abilities and disabilities. I have a dream of a world where the earth and all its inhabitants, great and small, are held in honor and respect and protected. I have a dream of a world where children play safely and the dignity of elders is upheld with respect. I have a dream of a world where nations work together to eliminate inequality, oppression, and persecution, ensuring poverty is history. I have a dream of a world where nations never again engage in mass murder and Holocaust, and enshrining protection and sanctuary of those whose lives are in danger in any way. I have a dream of a world where nations work together for a world of fair trade and a just and equal sharing of the benefits of human enterprise and economy, where nations work together and stand by the values of justice for all, mercy in the execution of justice, and humility in all leadership. I have a dream of a world where nations learn war no more and develop non-violent ways to resolve conflict, stop the manufacture and trading of weapons of mass destruction, and turn all weapons into instruments of healing, where hatred and hunger is ended, where reconciliation is real and relationships are healed. I would like to see every church become a church of sanctuary. Every mosque, every synagogue, every gurdwara, every mandir, every vihara, a place of sanctuary, safest places on earth, where all can be sure of warm welcome and protective hospitality, safety and sanctuary. That's my modest dream. I'm not asking for a lot. It may be a bit unrealistic, and in the words of John Lennon, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I am very proud, but also very humbled by the way City of Sanctuary has given a vision that has been embraced by people across Britain and Ireland and beyond. I don't see City of Sanctuary as a dream that's become a reality. We should not need initiatives like City of Sanctuary. City of Sanctuary is a recognition of a reality that we live in a world of hostility and hatred towards the other, the stranger, that we have failed to eradicate cruelty and build a world of compassion, and that vulnerable people seeking sanctuary continue to perish. But City of Sanctuary offers a way to challenge, a way forward, a vision of building cultures of welcome and hospitality. I think the message of City of Sanctuary can be summed up in the words, challenge hostility with hospitality. Let us learn to make movement of people possible and plan for it and manage it with international cooperation. Never talk of migration as a problem. It is actually a solution. The sea is a motorway. This is the lesson of Ireland to the world. The Irish history of immigration reminds us that the sea is not a barrier, the sea is not a border or a symbol of segregation. The sea is a passageway. It is a way of connecting people. So, what's your dream then? And what realities are you addressing? What questions are you wrestling with? I support the Four Corners vision, bringing people of all sides together. So focus on bringing people together, getting them out of their bubbles, to live together and work together, to transcend barriers and apartness and apartheid and segregation and separation. Bring people together to walk and work together for the welfare of all. And I want to leave you with my final words now, with this message in some simple words. Be human and call others back to their humanity. Be hospitable and challenge other people to be hospitable. And always challenge hatred and hostility. And you do this when you challenge inhumanity and in hospitality. This will build hope. And in Lucia's words, I hope that we can all use the voice we have for good and to change what we can in the world to make it a better place for all. Thank you, and God bless you, and all the strength of God to you. Bless you.
Well, since some of you were on your feet anyway, you may as well have just stayed there, because we're going to join together in a song that Inderjit has asked for this evening. It's the song that we began our radio service this morning with: beauty for brokenness, hope for despair, God of the poor. Please be seated. We're going to share now in a short prayer of commitment led by the team that made Four Corners happen this year. Let's pray. God, open our eyes, our hearts, our imaginations to your vision for us, this city and your world. May men and women, young and not so young, all people dream your dreams, asleep and awake. May we see clearly what is not yet there and what needs to be removed so that your kingdom might come and your will might be done in this city as it is in heaven. God of dreams, may your dreams become our reality.
God, our Creator, we commit ourselves to work creatively together, using our imaginations to bring a better future into being. God of dreams, may your dreams become a reality.
God of creation, we commit ourselves to play our part in being better stewards of this corner of our common home, the earth, for the sake of all its inhabitants, now and into the future. God of dreams, may your dreams become our reality.
God of justice, we commit ourselves to working for a city and a world where all its citizens have fair access to its abundant resources and opportunities. God of dreams, may your dreams become our reality.
God of compassion, we commit ourselves to growing a city and society where everyone has access not just to shelter or a house, but a place they can call home. God of dreams, may your dreams become our reality.
God of love, we commit ourselves to creating a city of open doors and hearts, where people of all nations, creeds, languages, ages, genders, sexual orientations, and political perspectives feel welcome and safe. God of dreams, may your dreams become our reality.
God of peace, we commit ourselves to building better relationships with neighbours in this city and our global village, so that conflict and fear and hatred are no more. God of dreams, may your dreams become our reality.
God of hope, we commit ourselves to encouraging aspiration in succeeding generations, fostering their dreams and visions of a better world and the part they have to play in it. God of dreams, may your dreams become our reality.
God of patience, we commit ourselves to persist in the work you have called us to. In seasons of sowing and in reaping, both when the future seems bright and when all seems dark, trusting in the dreams you have entrusted to us. God of dreams, may your dreams become our reality.
God of joy, we commit ourselves to singing new songs and telling new stories, affirming inspiring, encouraging, nurturing, sustaining one another in all our respective corners. God of dreams, let it be so.
Thank you to all the team, not just for that, but for all the amazing work that they have put in, not just this week, although boy have they put in work this week, but throughout this year. We say at times that we laugh our way through committee meetings and somehow a festival comes together at the end of it. Miley in her in due course will bring thanks to the people that actually make it happen in a minute or two. But before that, Consentio are going to bring us our last piece of music for the evening. Ubi Caritas.
Well, first of all, I want to say another huge thank you to Concentio for their time and their talent. I think one of the things missing over the past few years has been live music, especially to this caliber. So another round of applause for them. Thank you so much. Also, a huge thank you to Inderjit for his time and sharing with us. If you're interested in learning more about what he had to say tonight, the books that he mentioned are available in the back. These are resources for groups and for individuals to understand better what he means by sanctuary and hospitality. So those are available for a donation. Additionally, I would be remiss if we didn't take a moment to thank our so generous funders that allow us to have all of the events of the festival be free. So just to list those quickly are the Northern Ireland Executive Central Good Relations Fund, the Department of Foreign Affairs Reconciliation Fund, Belfast City Council's Good Relations Fund, and St. Anne's Cathedral Sit Out, as well as all of our friends of the festival. So thank you so much for that. I would also be remiss, yes, thank you. We also must take a moment to thank our Megan Boyd. She is our administrator for this festival, and this festival would not happen in the capacity it does without Megan. So thank you so much to Megan. Another brief reminder that if you've been to the festival, to please fill out some questionnaires. They're available online. That allows us to respond back to those donors that I mentioned and allows us to better plan for the future, as well as donations are available to be made online and in the donation buckets. There are going to be refreshments after this, so please stay and enjoy some tea and coffee and get to talk together and continue to think about these things. They are out that way. I'm being directed to go way around that way. Yes? Okay, good. I've got the arm motions. Also, I have been told anyone who's in a blue hoodie to please come forward at the end so we can get some PR photos. Now that that's all done, I'm going to leave you with this benediction. We hope that this week's festival has been inspiring and challenging for each of you, and we encourage you to think about what dreams you have for this city, for your community, and for yourselves. And in benediction, I pray, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May his light shine upon you. May he fill your heart with good dreams and your mind with the capacity to make those blessed dreams a reality. May you leave this space with the peace of God in your heart and the fire of the Holy Spirit in your soul. And all God's people said, amen. Thank you.